get by. It resides between my eyes. Walk through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Brandee Johnson of LimeLight Marketing, and I'm going to formally introduce Brandee in a second. Brandee, I always like to point out other episodes people should check out of the podcast. And there's a couple past episodes with Jason Swank, which is really interesting, where he talks about how he built up his agency to 8 figures and sold it. And then he had a separate one where he's been buying agencies and how they evaluate them and how they make offers and all of that and how they built up that company as well. Check that one out. And on the agency front too, since this is part of the top agency series, we had Todd Taskey on. Todd Taskey also has a Second Bite podcast. He helps match agencies with private equity. And sometimes they make more on the second bite than they do on the first once private equity sells. So he also talks about, how do you build up a company? How do you increase valuation? All of those things as well. Check those out and more on InspiredInsider.com. And this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. Rise 25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships and partnerships. And how do we do that? We actually help you run your podcast. We are an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the accountability, the strategy, which is the most important, and the full execution of a podcast. And for me, Brandee, the number one thing in my life is relationships. I'm always looking at ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way to do that than to profile the people and companies I most admire and share with the world what they're working on. So if you've thought about starting a podcast, you should. If you have questions, we've been doing it for both John and I, my business partner, have been doing it for over a decade. You can email us and go to rise25.com to learn more. We even have an episode. We have a lot of free episodes on podcasting for people to learn. One of the favorite ones is the 5 episodes every company should be producing if you're not. So check that out. And today, without further ado, Brandee Johnson's the CEO of LimeLight Marketing. It's a nationally recognized brand marketing and technology agency specialized in mid-size e-commerce. And LimeLight is on the 2022 Inc. 5000 list and was named the 2021 Kansas Women-Owned Business Professional Service Firm of the Year by the Kansas Department of Commerce. And prior to owner of her agency, Brandee worked in marketing at Lego. So Brandee, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So just start off and just talk about LimeLight and what you do.
Absolutely. So LimeLight is a marketing agency. We kind of combine marketing, development, and branding to bring our clients a full service solution for e-commerce clients. We tend to specialize in that mid-size e-commerce space, a company that is well established and with a proven product on the market. And then we help them to optimize and grow at scale.
When I hit your website, I'm going to show it for a second. So if you're listening to the audio version, there's a video version. I could tell there's like a sense of humor and a certain culture to you. Can you just talk about how you came up with the name and just it's a unique, we're looking at it. If you're listening to it, it says greetings home slice, and they have this cool watch show reel. So talk about some of the thought that went behind this.
Sure. Well, I'll start with how we named the agency, how I named the agency back in 2015 when I was kind of had it as an idea and a dream. And at the time I was reading a book by Steve McKee called Power Branding. And there was a quote that he talks about intensity with focus. And it's all about just the more you focus in on something, the greater intensity you have and the greater clarity or impact you can make. And so I really liked that quote. And because I was looking to name the agency at the time, I kind of started marinating on that thought. And the word LimeLight has kind of that meaning. It's focused intensity. I like the idea of putting our clients in the limelight and then helping them put their customers in the limelight. It also works internally as we look at putting our employees in the limelight. And so that's where we came up with LimeLight Marketing. And thankfully, 7 years later, I can say I still like it, love it, and I'm happy with it. Just recently, we redesigned our website, and that's what you're seeing here. And we introduced kind of a new fun brand voice that was an evolution of the brand. And so you see things like greetings, home slice, and we've incorporated that into like our new employee welcome kits and new client onboarding kits. And it's just a fun way to say hello with a bit of personality.
Yeah, I love it. And you could tell there's a certain culture without even experiencing or talking to anyone from your company. Like when I was looking at the about page we're looking at here, you could tell there's a certain culture to the company. You could see just it's kind of fun. You're holding this here and there's a cat on someone's shoulder here. Talk about culture and how you create culture there.
Absolutely. Well, one of the reasons that I started the agency was I had worked in corporate America for about 15 years. And what I understood about myself and what I saw in other peers that I worked with or admired was we give a lot of ourselves to our career. We, both from a time perspective and a mental capacity perspective, our careers are more than just a job. They're very much an integrated and integral part of our lives, which is probably similar for most of our listeners here. And we spend a lot of hours of our life at our jobs. And so what really motivated me to start a company, and what even gave me the dream to start a company years before I actually did, was the idea that I would love to create jobs that give people that really contribute nicely to someone's personal life and goals. So a job and a place to work and a culture that is rewarding and motivating and challenging. And that was really my vision. And so from the beginning, I would say rather than going in to be a marketing expert, although I knew I wanted to blend marketing with a company I started, I had a desire to create a place that people loved to work. And so therefore, culture has always been at the forefront and a goal of ours. From our early days, we had goals of being an agency where, that people would want to work here and stand in line to work here. And we continue to keep that a focus, and we're getting some really good feedback, even just here recently from our employees. So certainly an important key initiative in our company.
What are some things that you do to bake in to the company to help with culture?
Yeah, I can speak to that. And then also sometimes I ask myself that question because I got feedback the other day from employees saying how great of a culture it is to work here. And I have to what is it about it? And some of it's tangible. And honestly, some of it is just not that tangible. So more of the tangible things that we do to make it a great company and culture are things like we have unlimited vacation where we trust employees. If we hire employees, we trust them to take care of, large client accounts, big scopes of work. We're working on people's e-commerce sites. And if we trust them with those responsibilities, we also trust them with the responsibility of making good decisions as to when they work and when they take personal time. So we have that. We have built out nice benefit package. We have a flexible work from home environment and culture, which is now quite common, but wasn't as common prior to COVID. We just instill a lot of trust in our employees. And I think that's the less tangible piece that people really appreciate. The trust to try new things, bring new ideas to the table. We say that everyone has an equal voice here. So whether you're an intern or a junior designer right out of college, or you've been in business or in your skill for over 20 years, you have a voice that's equal. And so I think that's some of it. And then I would say if I had to just narrow down on one thing, I think it's the people that we hire. And I know a lot of companies would say that, and it's less maybe tangible, but we just look for a certain type of person and type of personality, somebody that we would see ourselves enjoying outside of work, somebody that is a little down to earth, low ego, willing to roll up their sleeves and take on anything. And that's kind of some of the components of our culture.
What's in the hiring process? Because like you were saying, it kind of starts with you have a great person to begin with. So maybe it just leads to good culture. What's in the hiring process allows you to kind of sift out the people, because sometimes it's hard to tell in the whole interview process, is this person, 3 months from now? Are they going to have a big ego from the interview? They seem great. What do you put in the hiring process?
Sure. So we have multi-steps in our hiring process that we typically follow, but we are also agile and flexible enough that we will move outside of that process if needed and kind of break the rules. So, especially depending on what kind of employment culture we're in at the time, sometimes you don't have weeks to interview several times and make a decision. Sometimes if you interview somebody and you know that they're a good fit, you got to expedite that. So I'll speak to our typical process if we're not accelerating it. And that would be, we review resumes. They would go through a phone screening with our HR representative. And she's really looking for, do they have the base skill set needed for the job, but also doing a kind of culture evaluation. Are they the right type of person? Do they have the similar values to the agency? We then pass along to the second round of interviews, and that will be with the hiring manager. And they are evaluating both on skill as well as culture fit. But in the order, we're looking first for culture fit. That's a non-negotiable. And we have a series of questions that we'll ask that help us understand the culture fit or the level of culture fit, and then also skill. From there, we usually go into the final round, which is a larger group, depending on what the role is, we'll pull in different people from the agency. We try to always do some type of experience-based presentation of work. So it depends on the role we're hiring for. If it's a developer, we give them a technical aptitude test that they have to do on their own. If it's a creative, we will ask them to present portfolio. We may assign a small project for them to do. And if we're hiring for account manager or project manager, we will assign them an appropriate kind of mini project or task, and then ask that they present to our team. So those are some ways that we try to kind of evaluate the person. I would say beyond that, it is trying to get somebody in an interview process to become their normal self and to get out of interview mode, and not try to impress us, but just try to decide, are we mutually an equal fit? Because it's not about, are they good enough for us? It is, are we the right match for one another? Are we the right fit for you? Are you the right fit for us? If we go into this together, what's it going to look like in 6 months? Are we both going to be really happy that we came together? What would success look like? And that's kind of what we do with the interview process. But I will say, because there's been times I've kind of beat my head against a wall saying what did we miss in the interview process where we didn't see this or we could have known better? And I think people who have gone about this longer than I have, or just peers in the industry, have shared hiring is just hard. And if you get it right, I'm not an expert at this. So if I throw out a number, it's a guess. But if you get it right 75% of the time, you're doing really, really good. And so I think equally important for us has been, if we make a hiring mistake, on the back end, recognizing it and addressing it, which can be hard, but it's usually best for both parties. If we find we're not a fit, that we part ways and help send them off, graduate them into a new opportunity that might be a better fit for them.
Yeah, I would love to hear a question that you have that kind of addresses culture in the process. But before you answer that, Brandee, I can't remember the person's name, but I do remember I had someone on who had hired 5,000 people in their career, and they said they still only had a 50 to 60% success rate. And they, so they had really honed the process, and they still, I guess I can compare it to baseball, a Hall of Fame baseball player is still batting 300, right? They're still getting out 7 out of 10 times, right? So it's similar with hiring sometimes. Hopefully you can increase that. So from a culture perspective, what's an example of a question that you have in the process to evaluate culture fit?
I'll give you a couple of them. One, we'll just openly ask, what type of culture are you seeking? What type of culture do you thrive in? And what type of culture would maybe not work well for you? And maybe avoiding the obvious, nobody wants to work in a hostile environment, but there are cultures that are just neutrally a culture that's super fast paced. That might be good for somebody and bad for somebody else. It's kind of a neutral, which side are you on? So we will ask just, for them to explain the type of culture they're looking for, or that they've thrived in the past. We will try to ask for examples, like tell me what in a past, about a past culture have you loved most and thrived in, and what has not been as desirable or you've not performed it as well. We'll also ask questions about managerial style. What type of leader do you and supervisor do you desire and work best with? And what would be some qualities of a leader that you would not work as well with? We are looking for people who don't want or desire a lot of direction. Now, in the beginning, for younger employees, like junior employees, we recognize the need to give more direction, but we are looking for people who have self-initiative and want to work a little bit autonomously versus working from a checklist every day that, here's what I need you to do. So those are some of the things and questions that we ask.
I love it. You mentioned before about you want everyone to have a voice, and that's really important. And they may have been trained somewhere else to not have a voice. So how do you incorporate, like if it's a junior member, to encourage them to speak up and to share their ideas, which are going to be great, but maybe they don't feel comfortable because of a past experience?
Yeah. I'll use an example. I'm working with one of our more junior employees right now and see so much potential in this person, and they're just growing and thriving. And so, they do have a lower maybe confidence than somebody who's been in the industry for a lot longer. They recognize their junior experience. And so sometimes it's helping push them out of their comfort zone in a way that they're comfortable with, and they feel like there's low risk of failure or it's acceptable to not hit the target. So things I've done is I have asked this person to take on a responsibility that is maybe outside of what they would typically do. Maybe we would assign this typically to somebody a little bit more experienced. It could be, for example, here's the problem we're looking to solve for this client. Recently, we have a client who has a specific product line that is not moving as quickly or as well as they'd like. They're not hitting revenue targets. I want you to spend an hour or two and come up and bring some ideas to me on what you think they could do that would help. And that could be anything from rewriting product copy, doing more content creation, doing advertising. There's just all kinds. And giving them the expectation, this is just for you to learn and grow. And you may bring some ideas that we use, but you can't fail at this. And so I think, I think when people feel trusted and they feel like you see something good in them, it boosts their confidence.
I love that. It seems like you give them a direct responsibility and you're building their confidence, but also building their leadership as well. They're kind of flexing that muscle.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say the other thing is to know when it's okay to step back and let them lead. So with this particular employee, she and I together lead an internal meeting every week with our team on this client account. And after we had done that for a couple of weeks together, I needed to not be at that meeting one particular week. And I had utmost confidence that she could lead the call. And so I asked her, do you feel comfortable doing this? Let's sit down in advance and prep if you need to. And she killed it. And so, she probably might not have had that confidence going in, but when she sees that her leader believes in her and that we trust her to lead a good meeting, and then she goes in and does that, it just boosts her confidence.
Yeah, I love it. I mentioned in the beginning about, I know you help a lot of different types of companies, but you do help a lot of e-commerce companies. So I'm wondering, I guess it could be a SaaS company, it could be an agency. Carving out a niche is a lot of times top of mind. So I'd love to hear how you've begun to hone that niche for yourself. Sure.
I know the challenge of this firsthand. It's not easy to form a niche, especially if you didn't do that in the beginning of your company. When I started LimeLight, again, it was about 7.5 years ago. I knew the importance at the time of finding and honing a niche, but as a startup, you're also looking to say yes a lot. And 3 of my first clients, which were really good clients, were in 3 completely different verticals. I had a large education client, a large construction client, and then a large company in like the entertainment business. And so it was like very, very different. And so we said yes. And then, we started mostly growing through word of mouth and referral in the first several years. And we were getting referred to or called on by all different types of clients in different spaces, B2B, D2C. And while we felt that we were bringing value to those clients, we also saw that our team was being stretched thinner and thinner to not with just workload, but mental capacity to wrap your mind around so many different industries. And marketing to D2C versus B2B can be different. If you're looking at lead generation versus driving e-commerce sales, there can be different strategies. And so a couple of years in, we decided to hone a niche. And the way that we went about that is we looked at our current client set and our past client sets, and we looked at it from a few angles. One, where do we really love working as a team? Two, where do we feel like we are most impactful and get sticky engagements that last a long time and have client relationships where these clients really see our value? The beautiful thing about e-commerce, and it can be beautiful, it could be not beautiful, but we like it. It's black and white. There's little question as to, are you generating a good ROI, because it's closed loop reporting, you're driving traffic, optimizing for conversion, and it's pretty measurable to see the ROI. And so we also then looked at it from an industry lens. What opportunity, is this a good niche to go in? We worked with a consultant, David Baker, for a bit to validate kind of the direction that we wanted to move. And then one of the mistakes I think that we made in the beginning is we made that decision and we communicated it internally, yet we only just updated our website at the time to reflect that positioning. And that's kind of where we stopped. And it's not like if you build it, they will come. We're not the only e-commerce agency in the market. So it wasn't like just updating our website that through SEO, magically we got this lineup of e-commerce clients. So we continued to grow in that niche, but kind of slowly. And so we've really put more power behind it in the last year and a half, creating more content related to e-commerce, building out more case studies related to e-commerce, and then doing more business development outreach in the e-commerce space.
Brandee, some people specialize in an industry and some people specialize in a service, and some people specialize in both the industry and the service. So from the industry perspective, we talked about that. From the services, what kind of services do you offer?
Sure. We are kind of quote unquote full service in that we offer a variety of different services. And for many of our clients, they're hiring us as that outsourced marketing partner to work across the channels. So we provide branding services. That's anything from brand strategy, brand archetypes, logo, visual design, and messaging. We also do paid media. So that could be paid social, paid Google, paid search, programmatic advertising. We do organic social, email marketing, content marketing. And then one of the things that's unique about LimeLight is we have a full in-house development team that's right here onshore in our office, about 8 developers. And so we do a lot of website design and development, app development, and really helping clients solve pretty complex technical solutions or finding integrations across their tech stack.
I'm curious, and this may not be a one size fits all, but from a developer perspective, there are certain platforms you like to build on from an e-commerce perspective?
Yeah, we do a lot in Shopify, BigCommerce, and WooCommerce are probably our top 3.
Got it. And then, I'm curious what the evolution of the services looks like, right? From the beginning, I'm sure you didn't have 8 developers, right? When you first started, what did it look like in the beginning compared to now?
Well, I'll take you a real quick journey through start to now. In the beginning, it was myself and one other employee, and we were neither one designers, we were neither one developers. So we were kind of more like marketing strategist, account, project manager. And at that time, we worked with some freelancers, contractors in those specialized areas. And then we brought in our first graphic designer. And then we brought in, I think a developer was our second hire. And then we brought in a project manager. And we just kind of started to grow our team as our services and our revenue grew. It was just in the last, few years that we brought some specific skills or services in-house that we had previously worked with a contractor or freelancer on. Now we're to a point where we do like 95% of our work in-house with our W-2 team.
So would you say most of the time you're hiring local versus whether
Not
it's
necessarily.
overseas or across the US, or most of the people kind of in where you're located?
Yeah, so we're located in Kansas, and we have a team of 25, and about half of them are local within a driving distance. So call that 12 or 13 people. And they'll come into our physical office. We do still work in person together, a portion of our team. And then the other half of our team are remote and work home office. We have 2 geo hubs, both like 2 hours on both sides of us, where we have like 4 or 5 employees in each hub. And so they work home office, but they can also get together and work, once a month together. They also have the proximity. They can drive into the office. Some of them do so weekly, some of them don't. And then we have a couple of employees who are just, one in Michigan and one in Pennsylvania. So it varies. We're not always hiring local.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do. You help a company, Backyard Discovery. And what did you do with them?
Well, we've worked with this client for multiple years. When we started with them, we mostly did project-based work around video creation. They are a company that sells wooden swing sets, and outdoor patio furniture. And so that's how our engagement started. And then it's just grown and blossomed over time. We are doing some really fun work with this client right now that includes website optimization, redesigning some of their product pages and category pages, and doing ongoing A/B testing as well as user testing to optimize that online conversion rate. They're unique. Well, it's somewhat unique to some clients, at least, in that they have good sales volume coming through their Shopify website, but they also have the majority of their revenue that comes through retail partnerships like Home Depot, Wayfair, Amazon, and the like. So one of the key value drivers or values that we bring to them is content creation that can be kind of two-prong and help both on their website to educate customers, help them be found online and drive up conversions, but also where those assets can be used also on Amazon and Home Depot and those partnerships to also increase conversions.
So they have a B2C and B2B component to what they do?
They do, yes.
And then are they all over the US or
Yes.
yeah, they can sell anywhere in the US?
Yes, they sell all throughout the US, and then they have a UK website, a Canada website, and an Australia website.
Wow. Okay. What does that ideal client look like for you? And that's an example. They sell all over the place. What are the components of an ideal client?
Yeah, I'd say ideal client is an e-commerce client that has a product or service that they sell online. Many of our clients do have both a D2C and a B2B model. We work with another company that's a candle company, and similar to Backyard Discovery, this client sells B2B through their wholesale channel to places like Whole Foods or florists, wedding and event facilities, and then they also sell D2C to end consumers. So a product that sells online. And then also I would say, we like to engage with clients who have a product that is doing well and has demand in the market. I think sometimes companies wait until they are like declining and in a death crisis to reach out to an agency. Those can be challenging because they may not have the stamina and the wherewithal to take the time as needed to build up. So, ideally we're working with a client who is already growing and looking to accelerate growth in a pretty aggressive way. And they believe that digital marketing and branding is important to that growth. And they're looking to partner with an outside partner to help drive growth.
Sometimes when you come in, one of the reasons, I'm curious, what are the reasons people come in? Have they plateaued? What are the reasons they come to you?
I think it can vary. So I'll use a couple of examples to answer the question. One of the e-commerce clients that we've worked with for about 5 years, they came to us because they acquired this company and the previous owner had really divested in the marketing investment for many years. So the company had went from being a brand that was on Oprah's favorites to a brand that was about to go into bankruptcy when they purchased. And so they did not have an internal marketing team, and they did not want to build that internal capability. And so they wanted to partner with an agency to really stand up a marketing program around a brand that had a good history, but was not seeing current success. In contrast, another client that we are working with, they came to us because the opportunity in the market is so great right now for them, and they are growing so fast, and there is so much opportunity on the table that they need much, much, much more bandwidth and strategy to capitalize on that opportunity.
What are some of the mistakes people make with e-commerce? Because sometimes people come to you and you're going to look at everything and optimize it, give strategy, also implement. What are some of the mistakes you see that are halting their progress?
Yeah, so I'd say there's mistakes in a few categories. Some are like, let's call it entry-level basic mistakes, and then there's more advanced mistakes. Entry-level basic mistakes that we still see with companies coming in is their website's not optimized for search engine. So they may lack meta descriptions on pages. They may lack proper H1s and headers throughout pages. Their path to conversion is just clunky, and anybody who gets on is going to recognize that. So those are kind of the low-hanging fruit but high impact mistakes. I would say the more sophisticated mistakes, if you've gotten through all of that and you're in a good position, but it's hard for brands sometimes to see outside of their own purview and to see things from a customer perspective. So oftentimes they can get really caught up in the features or specifications of a product and really go heavy on that and miss the benefit or the value that a consumer might see. And so even in the way, product copy is written, that can be an opportunity for improvement. Having, video used properly throughout the e-commerce journey is a mistake. Often companies either don't have the video assets, or maybe they have some assets, but they're not leveraging them to the full extent. I would say I'll put one more out there, and that is just not monitoring and analyzing your analytics to know what's working and what isn't working. And so company might make a change to the website and never come back and test it to know if it worked or not. I'll use an example. Recently, we launched a new hub on a website, so a new portion of the site, and we called it Learn in the navigation. And then we did some user testing, and we found very quickly that people did not know when we said, what do you expect you're going to see when you click on Learn, they would articulate, and it was nothing like what we were actually driving them to. So we renamed that section through that user testing, and we've been testing it now for 3 weeks, and we've seen I think the other day it was like a 359% increase in people clicking on that tab in the navigation. So just a lack of understanding data.
I love that, Brandee, because that applies to any company, really. Like when you talk about they're focused on features, not benefits, that could apply to an agency, it could apply to an e-commerce company, it could apply to a SaaS company. So I loved hearing you walk through that. And, from we talked about some of the benefits piece. I'd love to hear, what do you do with the candle company that you mentioned?
Yeah, so we've been working with them for 5 years, and we started the engagement with a rebrand. The brand was kind of stale. It looked dated in the market. So new logo design, new brand messaging. Then we moved into retheming their Shopify site to also reflect the new branding and make that much more modern. They were fairly inactive on social media at the time. So launching a holistic, organic social media strategy, along with Instagram being a primary focus, and then also paid social. We have also done some search marketing for them to drive, both top of funnel and bottom of the funnel conversions. We do email marketing with them, have stood up email marketing, and have had that become more and more sophisticated. Yeah, as we're seeing here on the screen, if you're watching, we've done quite a bit of photography for this client. Obviously, their product is a very visual and aesthetically pleasing product. So showing the different uses of candles and such. Now, I think it's good for our viewers to know this is Candle Company is a very premium candle company. So we're not talking about the, candle you're going to grab on the checkout aisle of Walmart. These are, premium candles that are handmade and often used for weddings and events, as well as, people who really enjoy a high-end candle. Oh, I just lost your sound.
You also talked about an education company.
Mm-hmm.
How did you work with them, compared to the candle company and Backyard Discovery?
Yeah. So this education client that I'm thinking they are they're out of Europe, and we work with them virtually. And when they came to us about a year ago, they were looking for some brand work to get to start with. So they are part of a larger, well-known brand that you would know the name and recognize, but they have an education division that sells into schools that is lesser known. And so that's really where our focus was around, is how do we take the parent brand and leverage and lean into that to create brand awareness within the education sector. And so for them, we went through a brand archetype workshop where we really dug into the brand, the essence, who they are, how they're helping their target audience, and then leveraging that brand archetype that they came out with. The next phase of our engagement was creating campaigns that would run through 2023. And those were mostly brand level campaigns, but also include product level campaigns. And for them, in addition to selling on their e-commerce site, they also have a B2B play, but it's through distributors. So they have distributors in their network. And so there's, a whole play on getting product into the distributor catalog on time. And so working with, multiple distributors across multiple countries is very important and has really tight timelines to make sure things are delivered on time.
Speaking of that, your background is over 15 years of project management. Okay, one of those being Lego. So I want to get to kind of how you manage the projects with your company, but what are some of the things you learned from Lego and the other company? Yeah.
So yes, early in my career, like coming out of college, I took several roles in the project arena. I was like a process analyst and then a process improvement consultant, project manager. And I went through a lot of corporate training during that time. And so it became built into my DNA as a professional. And so when I went to Lego and became the senior marketing manager over the education division, I definitely brought in those project management skills into that team, and then have at LimeLight as well. So some of the things that what that looks like in our agency. We use a project management software where we build out, every client and every project. Every project has milestones and tasks. Those tasks are assigned to an owner with a start date and a due date. We monitor those regularly because it's very important to me that if we tell a client we're going to deliver on the 1st, we deliver on the 1st. We don't deliver on the 2nd or the 5th. So there's just kind of the software that helps with good project management, visibility into, if you're working with, let's say 30 clients at a time and, a larger number of projects, there's just a lot of moving pieces at once. And so having the right technology to give visibility into Gantt charts and such. I think also the structure of having really good solid briefs is an important part of project management within an agency environment. Obviously, the brief is used to gain alignment with the client on what we're going to do, and then it kicks off our internal team, setting the expectations for why we're doing this, what we're doing, and what success looks like. We've seen, success and lack of success in this through our years where, a solid brief with a solid internal kickoff meeting can result in a project that's delivered very efficiently and effectively. And a weak brief with a weak or missing internal kickoff can lead to a lot of rework, frustration within the team. So, those are some of the key aspects of project management. I think it's just also a mindset. I think some agency owners have a background in creative or development, and especially creatives, and I'm not knocking on a creative, but they're genius in other areas. And so project management is sometimes a weaker point. And so those agency owners just have to make sure that they have the right person on the bus to handle the understands the value of project management. It's not that I'm the only one doing project management at the agency. In fact, I do very little of it, but I understand the value of it. And so therefore I've set processes and systems in place that enable us to, have solid project management.
Yeah. I mean, it could also be someone who is really good at it and a visionary and they just hate it. So often, and for myself, I avoid things that I don't like doing, right?
Yeah.
And so it could fall to the wayside.
Yes.
So, Brandee, first of all, thank you. I want to encourage everyone to check out LimeLightMarketing.com. I have one last question. And my last question is tech stack.
Okay.
You mentioned project management software. What do you like using for your tech stack?
Okay. For the agency specifically? Okay. We use Excello for our project management system. We use Basecamp for our client communication tool. As far as we use like Ahref, we use for our dashboards, we're using Whatagraph, and we like that a lot. We use Bannersnack for some animations. Obviously, we use the Adobe suite. For more finance and operations, we use QuickBooks Online. And I'll throw a couple others that are like just fun ones and not as common. We use a tool called Bonusly that is really good. Agencies or any company, low cost, and it's a way for employees to recognize one another. It allows you to assign points. We call ours LimeLikes to others. And so it's integrated with Slack, which is another tool that we use and love, and Google Drive. And you can say like at Jeremy, plus 10 LimeLikes for going above and beyond on XYZ project or getting this feedback from a client. And then it forces you to hashtag, and we have our values, our core values set up. And so you have to hashtag with the core value. That's just a really immediate way that employees can recognize one another. It's going through Slack. People are also learning about the great things, their peers are doing. And then it rewards them with points that they can cash in for a variety of online gifts. There's one more and we use Bamboo HR, and implemented that about 2 years ago after moving off like spreadsheets for maintaining employee data. And that's been really good.
Do you have a universal inbox? What do you use for like email support?
Just Google email.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Brandee, first of all, thank you. This has been fantastic. Okay. Everyone check out LimeLightMarketing.com, and we'll see everyone next time. Thanks, Brandee.
Great. Thank you for having me.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I'm feeling like $100 grand.